Serious, girls, what are some obvious hits you gave a guy you like, which he couldn't understand? I asked him if he'd like to take a walk. He said sure, turned around and left. Later, he texted me that it would be nice if we could go together sometime. Yeah, that was what I had in mind, sir. Texting late at night about his munches, I offered to bring him some ice cream and listen to music with him. He declined. About a week later, I invited him over to share a giant lasagna I bought from Costco. He gets there and asks where our friends are. I tell him it's just me and him for the evening. He literally pulls out his mobile and starts calling our friends to come over to eat. I eventually had to basically throw myself at him before we started hooking up. I asked if he was reluctant before or what was going on. He said he was completely unaware. He didn't want me to come over with ice cream because he didn't want to inconvenience me. The lasagna night he was worried I was lonely at not having more friends show up. A sweet guy with good intentions. He just never made the connections and was shocked when I told him. I told him I would love to go to a dance with him and he said haha, that would be super fun, and then didn't go to the dance BC he didn't have a date. Another clueless guy, very cute girl who I was friends with from college, ended up living in my area for an internship. She messaged me one night that her arm really hurt and asked me to come sleep over to help her with it. I came over and took care of her by making a sling for her, feeding her dinner, then promptly putting her to bed and slept on the couch. She insisted on watching a movie or something, but I told her to rest up for her own health. I wake up the next morning and started heading to work, and she told me I look really cute when I sleep and she wanted to hang out again. I agreed and gave her a friendly hug before I left. Only after I come home from work to my roommates and tell them what happened did I realize that I may have missed something. I played with his hair. I would make a distinct point to sit next to him. I would lay on his shoulder and months later he asked, hey, why would you do those things? Apostrophe. We were in a mycology CL but that I was taking to fulfill a requirement. She asked me if I wanted to go mushroom hunting sometime with her. I replied, why would I want to do that? Because I wasn't really that interested in mushroom hunting and was having a bad day. I only realized my mistake 3 hours after the final exam, which was weeks after she had asked. A bit hint I have was always being available to talk to or something. Like it literally drop everything to talk to him. He must have thought I was a lonely person or something instead of understanding I always wanted to talk to him, which is understandable, right? There is no hint. We all know how to identify if someone likes you as a friend. If a girl acts like she likes you as a person, just ask her out. Maybe she will say no, but who cares? Because you weren't going on a date before she said no anyways. If she texts you back, texts you first, accepts when you ask her to hang out, and or is generally enthusiastic to interact with you, ask her out. There's no big clue or hint to look out for. If you sit next to a girl in class and she's happy to talk to you and you like her, say, hey, I like chatting with you in class. Would you like to go on a date sometime, maybe to a cafe? It is that easy. She will be so impressed that you took the initiative and made your intentions clear that you might render her speechless. I don't know what else to tell you. Texting him late at night, telling him I'd had some wine and wanted to stay up and see what happens. I thought I could get some flirting or maybe some phone sex. I even pointed out wine makes me frisky and we had met on a dating site. He responded that he hoped I was warm and would get some good sleep. In high school, there was a girl who would bring me food she made herself. I always thought she just liked making food and never connected. Her friend told me she likes me after she transferred to another school. I want to be your partner for the project, but also for the next couple of years. His reaction/answer. PFFTY. The project is due in 2 weeks. Never tried that again. This again. I actually went a few months without seeing this topic come up. But, here we go again. Women's hints are not universal. One woman's hints are not the same as another woman's hints. One woman's flirting is another woman's just being friendly. For every woman complaining about a guy missing the obvious hint, There's another woman complaining about how her friend Linus is always mistaken for flirting. Unless you are literally getting naked or touching his penis. I guarantee that whatever your hint is, it has been done by another woman who wasn't interested in him. High school, it happened to me both ways. A girl that I considered out of my reach had invited me to spend time together indirectly. I just didn't get it at the time. Took me 4 years. I'm super dense. The other way around happened before. I straight up wrote a poem about a girl that I liked as a poetry assignment. I read it out loud. The whole CL buttoned, even the teacher understood the situation. Everyone but her. I once straight up wrote to him that I found him very nice and interesting and that I'd like to get to know him better. We had coffee together in uni a few times and I think he liked me too. But he either didn't get the hint that I meant it in a romantic kind of way, or he did get the hint and just didn't have the guts to tell me that he wasn't interested in that way. Nothing happened between us, but I'm glad that I knew him because he's really a very intriguing person. Edit. He also paid all of my things when we went to have coffee, even though I didn't want him to. So, I really don't know what he was thinking either. I can't speak for every one of us, but let me say, most of the time we do realize the hints, it's just that we rather not risk it and be humiliated. At least I have a lot of self-esteem issues and always take for granted that it's a prank or something similar. When I was a freshman in high school, I had a crush on a really nerdy guy, literally in the robotics club at our school, that sat next to me in one of our classes. I knew that it would be me that would have to put the moves on, so one day I wore a skirt to CL buttoned. When we were doing a project, I'd keep brushing his leg with mine. After a few times of doing that, I left my leg touching his. After a little while longer, I started sort of rubbing his leg with my leg. Then, out of the blue, him, "What are you doing?" Question mark. Me, "What?" Question mark. Him, "That thing." Exclamation mark. "That thing with your leg you're doing. Why are you doing that?" Question mark. Me, "Oh, sorry," and obviously moved my leg away. Completely embarrassed. We're silent for the next minute and then I hear him take a deep breath and he said, "I didn't mean you had to stop, I just wanted to know why you were doing it." I'm the guy in this one and I'll give you the short version. Was at a friend's birthday. Started making small talk with a girl I vaguely knew. Started raining outside. The girl asks me to walk her home and I oblige. Says she is home alone and offers to let me come in and dry off plus spend the night there. I decline and walk home in the rain. 2 years later the penny drops. High school. Soph year. 15 to 16 Y/O. A girl asked to borrow my sweatshirt for class. No. Sorry. I might get cold and need it. Didn't realize it until well into college. Edit. I'm a guy, but the point remains. I was very unaware. I didn't even pick up any signs when she went as far as pulling me onto my bed with her. Thought she wanted to just converse and look at the ceiling, lol. Only after she made the move on me did the thought cross my mind. Very easy to push signs aside when you genuinely believe nobody would ever be interested. To any girls wondering why men never get it, it's something that happens to the other guy, but never us, either due to a misbelief that women aren't actually like that, or we're just way too below standard. Even if we think that's what it might be, we convince ourselves otherwise in fear of being a creep or just not reading the situation right and ending our evening ostracized or worse. I've probably missed the big but clues so many times due to this behavior. At the end of high school my friends told me this one girl liked me. I had no clue. There were some signs I noticed in hindsight, like her looking at me and her asking to work together on projects. However, the most obvious one was kinda weird. One time she went off on a rant about touching a guy's body, his large muscles, etc. This was probably an imaginary story she used to flirt with me? Question mark. But I'm a small, skinny guy. So all I was thinking is that I'm way out of her preference if that's what she likes in guys. I don't get it. Oh god. I was in community college and I had a huge crush on this guy in our D&D group. He was so oblivious. Whenever we hung out and played, I made sure my character clung to his and would be like a love interest for his. I'd get really into character when he'd drive me home or pick me up from campus. I'd hold his hand while he drove. I remember D&D was over for the night once, and he and I were left alone in the basement. I told him I didn't wanna leave yet. I sat super close to him, our knees touching, and our faces were close. I kept telling him about my favorite game while staring at him. Maybe it was me, but I was so frustrated when I got home that night. I'm the guy in this situation. I was on this swim team that my mom put me in. There was a girl who would always try to talk to me, but I really didn't understand any hints that she was trying to drop, and I would just ignore her and continue swimming. A few months later, it was just another normal day of practice, but then her friends asked me if I wanted to go to homecoming with her. Being homeschooled, I had literally no idea what homecoming was. This was around the time that Spider-Man: Homecoming was being released in theaters, so I thought they were referring to that. So I just replied, "Sorry, I'm not that interested in watching movies," and then I walked off. About a year later, I realized what happened. 2 years after realizing I'm making this comment. Edit. 1 year after the incident, I went to a public high school and I found out about homecoming. As a guy, I can't understand this. I can relate to all the dudes here who didn't get these, because I wouldn't either. I think I'm going to go make my own Ask Reddit asking why women use hints instead of just telling guys they like them. I went to his bedroom in the house where my friend was living cause her bedroom was cleaning. I desperately needed to sleep, but I preferred his room to other girls' room. So I was in my underwear in his bed when he was back from work. He thought I really needed to sleep somewhere. No flirt after that. But later we started to get closer more. We're together for 7 years. Got married last year. I bought him a slice of cake one day to work. I also always pulled him aside, just for the two of us to talk. He really didn't notice I would get slightly emotional if I felt he ignored me. I just would go quiet and not talk as much as usual. I may even ignore others. He also doesn't know he was the first person to get me to laugh and open up at my job. I always felt so genuinely safe around him. I'm the guy, but a girl I liked was telling me she had never kissed anyone and really wanted to, and I was just like, well yeah, hope you find someone for that. Figured it out like a year later. We were good friends for about a year. I caught feelings. I told him we needed to talk, looked him straight in the face, and told him that I was attracted to him. He said he reciprocated, and then nothing. Ghosted for a few months. He thought I was lying. Took him about 3 more years of friendship before he finally believed me. Oh boy. He said he didn't know why he didn't have a date yet, and I was all me neither. I mean, you're smart and funny, or whatever I said, and I'm sure there's someone out there you probably already know her. Got absolutely nothing back. I had a crush on one of my neighbors in junior high. We always hung out and were close friends. I always made hints that I had a crush on him. Once I went as far as to say, if I could choose any boy to be my boyfriend, it would be you. He seemed to ignore it, so I took it to mean he didn't like me back. Fast forward to about 6 months ago, after I had moved away, he texts me suddenly that he actually had a crush on me. I said I also had a crush on him, and he wondered why I never asked him out and said it seemed like I wasn't at all interested. I was laughing and facepalming so hard. I'm a boy, and when I was a kid, like I didn't know anything about girls or love. I was kind of unaware of things in the world, and when I knew that there's such a thing as dating and love and drama, I was like taken aback. It was surprising, and then everything connected like also. That's why 2 girls sat beside me with me in the middle, literally clinging to me and watching a movie they showed to us in school. We were really young. Movie was something about a spider's web or something. Charlie's spider web, I think, cannot remember. I'm the dense guy. Met my S/O at 13 on swim team. She would do things like tap my feet, usually a sign you want to pee but a slower swimmer. But she never passed. Hang with me exclusively between races. Had mini M&M fights. We spent weekends skiing together with her parents. She was constantly at my house, too. Got invited to family vacations all the time. I dated 2 other girls during our friendship stage. She even once asked, "Do you think we'd have a BBF/GF? Me, no. You're like a sister." finally realized I was into her after her chasing me for 4 years. And was nervous as hell to ask her to prom. What if I ruin our friendship? Question mark? She said yes, of course. And we've been together for almost 15 years now. Guy was later asked by the girls in question why I did what I did. Anyways, sat in my car after a date while she talked about BJS for a half hour. Meanwhile I stared at the clock and wondered why she kept talking about it. Was making out with another once on her couch. She pushed me over, jumped on top, and pulled her shirt off. I was taken by surprise and said something like okay, because I was unsure of what she wanted me to do. Unfortunately she was smaller chested and my reaction made her a bit insecure. Many others but those two stick out. My girlfriend in college, now my wife, and I went to the school's winter formal dance. Suits, gowns, etc. I was the designated driver, so she starts throwing back the drinks. When the evening ends, I finally get her into the car and was driving back to her dorm when she said she wanted to sleep over at my apartment so she didn't have to try and sneak past the night security at the front door. We had not slept together at this point, so I get her back to the apartment. She gets undressed and falls into bed. I tuck her in and go sleep on the couch. A few minutes later, she comes out into the living room and asks me when I was coming to bed. Duh. There are 3 possibilities. 1. Clueless. 2. Uninterested. 3. Unwilling to risk embarrassment of misinterpretation. I'm without a doubt #3 most of the time. I asked my husband to marry me while we were washing dishes. According to him, he thought I meant someday. In the far future I meant, will you marry me within a year or two. It took him a few days to get that I was serious, and that I meant within a year or two. We will be married 20 years this coming May, and yeah, I still have to spell things out at times. I've already said that in another thread, but here we go again. I'm the dude in the story. My ex had to confess to me twice that she was into me. Before I got it, she liked me. The first time she insisted we will be a great match and started listing reasons why. Somehow I didn't get it and thought she was just being silly. The following day I texted her to meet. We did and she seemed very upset and nervous. I asked her why and she apologized to me and said that it was okay if I didn't like her and she was hoping to still be friends. Then it clicked. I'm a dude, but I just remembered that this happened. I was in junior year and there was a girl in my math class. We didn't really talk to each other all that much. One day I was walking up to ask the teacher a question and she had dropped a piece of paper and I went to go pick it up and give it back to her. As I'm walking up to the teacher's desk I hear her and her friend say so quickly, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, apostrophe. At the time I had a crush on a different girl and wasn't even considering other girls. Also I had terrible self-esteem and couldn't believe that anyone would like me like that. I don't really lose sleep over it though, since even if I did end up going out with her, the restrictions my mom put on me as a teenager would have meant that relationship wouldn't have lasted very long at all. Somewhat of a different story, but my brother had a lady friend who would come over a lot and be all touchy-feely with him. One day I told him you can't be that clueless, you know she likes you, right? And he said yeah, and I'm too polite to reject her. Reading these responses has made me realize this might have happened to some of you. Me and this guy were talking for months and we listened to the same artist. BC he started listening to it. BC I liked it and I didn't have his number yet and I went up to him and asked for it and he could see my hands were shaking and he asked why and I said OIDK ha 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 and he was like okay LMAO. And then I told him that I thought he was a cute guy and that I bet a ton of guys liked him. In the end he never knew I liked him. Well, guy here. Back in high school there was this girl in the wrestling team I always paired with. She went out of her way to make sure she got paired up with me for sparring and practice whatever our coach taught us something new. We are moving stuff, she with me, and making physical contact, and I did have a crush on her. However, I never put anything together because 1. I'm den saf. 2. Even if I did, knew it wouldn't be me to make a proper move because some childhood trauma makes me scared of any sort of rejection and some other shit. Although I was little more brave back then, so maybe I would have. But anyways, I found out later she was a classmate to my sister and she told her she had a crush on me. But finding this out was years later. Vertical bar. At the start of high school, a mean girl who everyone seemed to be afraid of except me asked how my canine teeth, those the fang ones, were so sharp. She said they looked like fangs, and I guess it turned her on as she asked me what I'd do if she sucked on one in front of a few of her equally mean friends. I'm guessing she was trying to ember bug me, but it didn't quite work out as I called her bluff. So now she's embarrassed, visibly, but she'd created this situation where she now has to do it. So she just kissed me, and it was a proper one. I felt her tongue prod around in there, and I still remember achieving a rod in record time. That was my first tongue kiss, of sorts. She seemed to have lost a bit of street cred after that, as she wasn't nearly as much of a Lesotho people for no reason. I would have liked to explore her a bit more, but it was never to be, and I was a bit of a legend to my friends for a while after that. We were talking about movies we both like. The Princess Bride came up, and I mentioned how it's playing in theaters. He said that was neat. Same guy. I mentioned how the new Star Wars movie was in theaters. He likes Star Wars, and that I want to go check it out. He said that he has already seen it, and that I should go watch it, because it was good. Eventually things clicked for him. We just celebrated our 3rd anniversary. Close bracket. I'm a guy. I'm an introvert and I usually am off to myself, and for some reason, that makes people come around me a lot. So, one day, on a field trip, we're at a McDonald's, and I'm sitting at my own table. This really popular girl came and sat at my table and said, "Hey, we're on a date." Apostrophe. It was a joke at first, but then it started to go further, and she would even cling on to me in the hallways while we were walking through the hallway and give me hugs when she saw me. Of course, I just thought that a joke was as far as it went, and my friends would tell me to loosen up. Also, I'd thought she was already dating someone, but later I learned that her boyfriend had broken up with her a while before that field trip. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.